everyone, welcome to The Theory with Mike Beavers. We got a special guest on today, Jeff Woolwine. Jeff, if you want to say hello to everybody.
Hello, how's everybody doing? Thank you so much for having me.
For sure. So I'm kind of going to jump right into it. What got you into UFOs and the subject of extraterrestrials and everything like that?
Okay, so we're gonna start off. I was born and raised in Phoenix, Arizona, and I remember as a child, growing up, I was, seeing these things in the sky. My father and I would play catch football together, and I would see this orb in the sky, and I'd ask my dad, what is that? And he didn't know, and so I remember seeing lights in the sky also, from time to time, in Phoenix, Arizona. And, I went to my school, and I was asking my friend, my little Native American friend, I was like, dude, did you see that light last night? And he's like, yeah. He goes, my grandfather says that they live in the mountains over there. And he points to the west side of Phoenix, Arizona, to the White Mountains. And he's like, yeah, my grandfather says that, little Native American boy, I'm like, cool, so, being that age, being in the 5th grade, you just go on and do your business. But growing up, you're starting to see these things more and more and more. I mean, I've moved out of Phoenix a number of times, but wherever I went, there they were in the sky. So that's what really made me go on a hunt, on a quest to figure out just what the hell is going on, man. So I did this mainly for myself, just to find out why am I seeing these things in the sky everywhere I go. And so I started off in 2004. Now, I was in the Valley of the Sun. I was in Phoenix, March 13th of 1997, when this Phoenix Lights 1997 event occurred at.
Yeah, it's like the most famous UFO sighting.
Yeah, and so during my 20 years of investigations, okay, so I was there in the valley. I was outside between the hours of 8 and 10 o'clock. I was at a friend of mine's house, and we're kind of having like this little get together outside. So I was right in the flight path of what these people say this supposed object went over the city at. And I can assure you that I was out there that night, and I did not see anything go over the city. And as a matter of fact, during the many years of research I've done into the Phoenix Lights, I cannot find one evidence, period, of anything going over the valley, over Phoenix. Now, there's a lot of people out there saying, oh, well, it went over the valley and it was going 8 miles an hour. How come, if it's going that damn slow, how come no one is picking up a camera? Okay, but look at look at what we have here today. Okay, look at what we can verify, because this is what I go with. I cannot prove hearsay. I can prove what we have physical evidence of, what we can verify. This is what's credible to me. Hearsay to me is not credible. But what is credible are lights on the west side of Phoenix, Arizona, on the west side of a mountain now known as South Mountain, formerly known as Mount Sapoa. That's what the Indians call it, Mountain of Mercy, Mount Sapoa. So these lights just did an arc, okay? Not a boomerang, mind you, but just an arc, okay? From the west side of Phoenix, of the South Mountain area, all the way to the Indian reservation of a mountain known as the Australia Mountain, which means Star Mountain. Okay, so with that in mind, there were sky watchers, okay, ready for something to happen. This is the reason why we have videos of where it really took place that night, is because of sky watchers, and one of his names was Tom King. Now, I remember, like years ago, Tom King was filming these Phoenix Lights on the east side of Phoenix, Arizona. He was making the news. I was watching him very closely, all right? He was filming, lights on the east side of Phoenix. I'd see him on the news all the time, but this time, for some reason, he was on the west side this time, and he was ready. And the reason why, because he was catching lights nights before. So when the Phoenix Lights actually happened, the 1997 Phoenix Lights, he caught it. He was one of the witnesses that was there. okay, and there was other people around that caught it. So basically, I had found 4 credible videos of what really happened that night. So my question is, if a handful of people can film lights way the hell on the west side of Phoenix, Arizona, then why couldn't the same handful of people or other handful of people film a craft going over Phoenix, Arizona? I just don't see the evidence of this. I find no proof of this, no evidence. I'm sorry, this is where my 20 years plus research has gone with the Phoenix Lights and what happened March 13, 1997. I cannot see any evidence of this. I hear a lot of hearsay. You know, a lot of people, oh, well, it went over, over the valley. Well, that's okay. We just can't prove that. So what I go with is what we can prove, what we can verify. And what we can verify are the sky watchers out that night that actually videotaped what had happened. Okay, so that in mind, in 2004, all right, I was coming from New York. Now, I was living in New York in 2001. I was there during 9/11. I was 150 miles away from ground zero. Every day before I was a single dad. I took my son back and forth to school. We'd see the smoke from the towers. Okay, so I was seeing lights way before I moved to New York. And so when 9/11 happened, there was a no-fly zone. No one was able to fly around that city at all. Well, yeah, I always told my son, look for things in the sky. If you ever see something in the sky, come and tell me. So my son is out there playing. It's like the 3rd, 4th day of 9/11, and after 9/11, and my son runs to the window and he's like, "Dad, UFO, UFO!" So I go outside and I look, and sure enough, it looks like 4 silver spheres. Okay, and they're connected together. And the only way that I really could describe on how this sighting took place is, the kids jumping jacks with the ball and jacks. You bounce the ball. Yeah. Right. So that's what this thing looked like in the sky. It was going counterclockwise about 1,000 feet over the apartment complex. It went over our heads, and it was going to the left of us. And finally, another orb appeared over here, and it looked like it was going to merge with these jacks, and some trees got in the way. Well, that was it. I've had it. I'm seeing these things. What the hell am I thinking to myself? What am I doing in New York? I need to go back home where the sightings took place at. So in 2004, I went back to Phoenix. Actually, I was hunting. I'm hunting for the lights now. I'm trying to figure out what was going on. And so as I'm, getting ready, I'm in my apartment. I'm getting my son ready for school. I'm watching the news in the morning, and it turns out that the news helicopter filmed a bunch of lights in the same spot where the 1997 Phoenix Lights occurred at, on the west side of that mountain, the west side of South Mountain. Boom, that was it. They're here. This is the beginning of the summer of 2004. So I knew the time was ready. The time was ready to go. So instead of staying there on the west side, I decided to move to the east, because that is where Tom King, years before, was filming these lights on a regular basis. So I packed up all my stuff, and I got an apartment down on Mesa. It's the east side of Phoenix, Arizona. It's called Mesa, and it's the east side of Phoenix. And so I knew kind of what direction to look. I wanted to look, southwest, and just keep my eyes, looking south, And it didn't take very long. It didn't take long at all for one orange amber light to appear about a mile away from me, and 2 more orange amber lights, and they're in a diagonal pattern, if you will, and they're moving. They're moving east. They're moving towards South Mountain, and then they disappear. Wow. And then 2 more would pop in, move toward the mountain and disappear. And then finally, that one over there went away and disappeared. And this was my very first, video, because I was ready for these things. I had a video. Yeah, for sure. So yeah, I caught it on video, and I was ecstatic. I was thrilled. I finally got something on film. It was shaky video. It was like my first video, but hell, I got it right. So
that's such a similar case for me for my first UFO. It's funny that you actually say how they were like the orangish red orbs is what they kind of look like, and then they just disappeared, because here in Springfield, Oregon, I'm sort of, I guess you would say, new to it. But about 2 years ago on May 3rd, I actually filmed a triangle of reddish orange orbs going through the sky, and I went in full panic mode. I wasn't ready for it. I happened to look out the window and see it, and I have the craziest video online of me just panicking, screaming to my roommates, to everybody I could, you got to see this. There's some crazy UFO outside. And it was probably the most thrilling experience I've ever experienced in my life.
Did you get that on video?
Yeah, I do have the video. I have it on the original UFOs over UFO YouTube. It's super amateur cell phone video, but you can clearly see it's a giant triangle of red.
Okay, yeah,
total.
I'd love to see it. Yeah, send that to me.
Yeah, for sure, definitely. But your story kind of reminded me of that, even though you seem to have this almost lifelong affair of trying to find the truth and stuff, which is I could only aspire to be able to investigate this kind of stuff that long. But you've turned out some great work since you've been doing this stuff.
Yeah,
so it's amazing.
Yeah, and thanks, man. I appreciate it. But it's hard work. It's continuing to go out there and skywatch. Trying to figure out what was going on. I'm retired. I was involved in a motorcycle accident when I was 16. I paralyzed my left hand, so now I'm on disability. So all I have pretty much is time. All right, and that's the reason why a lot of people, they just don't have the time and dedication to put forth into this type of investigation, because they have to go to work, they have to go to school, blah, blah, blah. What else do I have to do but research what these lights is? And that's what I did for 20 years. And here's how it started. So in 2004, all right, I'm seeing these lights moving towards the mountain. The next night, I didn't see anything. The next night, I didn't see anything. And I wanted to get closer. I wanted to get to it because, when you're sitting in the middle of the valley, you got trees, you got buildings. I needed to go somewhere where I could see the whole valley. So I picked up my bike and picked up my son, and we took off. And I ended up finding a college, Mesa Community College, okay? And I climbed up on their bleachers. And it was about 100 feet high, where they play their football games and tracks and stuff like that. And I climbed all the way to the top of that, and boom, I could see South Mountain. I could see everything right there. So that was the place where I was going to skywatch each and every night. So it didn't take long, I would set up my video cameras, right at sunset. And, about an hour or so after the sun would go down, boom, here come those lights, man, kind of right in front of us, give or take, I would say maybe about a mile away, maybe a little bit closer, but they were kind of close to that South Mountain there. And this went on the whole summer of 2004, man. I'm catching these lights in the exact same spot almost every night of 2004. I'm getting lightning bolt formations. I'm getting triangles. I'm getting lights, separated from each other. I'm getting three orange lights together. It was great. They were just sparkling orange, amber lights, dude. It was great,
That's amazing. That's amazing.
And, investigating all this stuff, I'm watching TVs. I'm following up, on anything I can, on UFOs and such. And I came across this program, right? And it was on Channel 8, the public access channel out here in Arizona. And a Native American worker, shaman from the Pueblo Indian Art Museum in downtown Phoenix was conducting a tour on South Mountain talking about petroglyphs. And he was saying, one of the guys was with him. He was, talking to these guys, and one of the guys said to him, "Well, it looks like this stick figure man is looking up at something in the sky." And Dave, that's his name, the Native American, turned around and says, "That's one of our interpretations here, is that our ancestors might have saw and recorded things, on the mountain here." Well, boom. Since then, mind you, it's been 10 years since the Phoenix Lights, and no one has ever done any research on the petroglyphs, even looked into the petroglyphs or anything, any kind of connection with the Phoenix Lights. But that light bulb, what I saw on television, that light bulb went on in my head. So boom, that was a key piece right there. So in 2004, I'm watching these lights in the exact same spot, okay? And I never saw them, right? I never saw them to the east of me, right? Where I first saw them, when they're moving, So basically what had happened is they were showing me, they were pointing me the direction from which for me to go to look for them. I can't explain it.
Interesting.
That's the only way Right, and I can prove it with the videos, because you see in my very first video, the lights are this way, and then on the rest of my videos, I'm right there at the mountain. I'm videotaping these things right there in front of me.
So they're coming from the same direction, pointing the same way almost just every time.
Right over this same spot. Now, I'm going to go a little ahead of myself here, but later on I learned that the reason why they're over that spot is because that is a major power plant that's bored down into the fault lines of the mountain. And it just so happens in 2004, that power plant was active. And you know what it was doing? It was attracting these lights to this power source. Okay,
with that high energy.
Right, they were absorbing the energy from that power source. We'll talk about that a little bit later on how I discovered all this. But I'm watching these lights right there, so I'm calling the news, after a few weeks. Hey, is anybody else seeing this, man? Because I'm catching great shots. I've never seen any other people videotaping what I'm getting here. This is beautiful, straight on, looking at these lights head on. I've got it, dude. Let's talk about it.
Yeah, that sounds as good as it gets right there.
Yeah, brother, so it took the news a little while to get a hold of me. And finally I did, and I was making some news reports. And we're talking about the lights in 2004. And, I ended up doing all the news reports there, Channel 5, 12, 15, Channel 10, and Channel 12. And at the end result, getting closer to 2005, at the end of the summer, the end result is that everybody was seeing flares. That was the cover-up story. What the news had done is they went to Tucson, Arizona, 150 miles away, mind you, from Phoenix, Arizona, and they went out there and watched these A-10s dropping flares out, and they were trying to say that this is what everybody was seeing. Well, that was bullcrap. Because
that's as good as a thing as swamp gas.
Oh, in the desert? Yeah. Swamp gas. That's it, baby. Nailed it.
Swamp gas and flares. That's all it can be.
I have investigated flares before. That's part of the things you need to do. To be an investigator, you have to go out and investigate things that you can't explain. So when you see something, you know that you've seen stuff that you've explained before, but when you see something that you can't explain, then you know that you've got something there. So, flares, you can see the airplane dropping these flares out. The flares are illumination flares, so they're bright. They illuminate the smoke. You can see the parachute. They do not stay in a straight line, in a triangle formation. They fall. They move away from each other. They don't last that long. Right.
Very similar. It's one characteristic. It never changes. Their flares are always going to do the same thing.
Right, and these orange amber lights were huge. These globes, these orbs were huge. Okay, and they were clearly in the city, man. It wasn't 150 miles away. I'm filming them right here in front of me.
Plus, what are the chances of the military just dropping flares over a major city? I don't see that happening. Maybe in the desert somewhere on an airstrip, but not directly over a major city.
Now, while I was doing the news, okay, that's when the military got involved. All right. So what they were doing is about out of town, out of Phoenix. There's a long stretch of highway between Phoenix and Tucson. Well, right in that middle area is just nothing but desert. So it's safe to draw flares out there. So what they were doing is what was really going on that summer is I was filming lights and I was seeing flares at the same time. So when someone comes up to them and they ask the military, hey, what was that light? At such and such a time on such and such a date, they're going to come back and say, yes, we're dropping flares. They were dropping flares. What they are doing is like a cover-up. You're going to see the lights, and then you're going to see the flares way far away. All right, so a lot
somebody
of people
not paying attention is going to think it's the same thing.
Yeah, absolutely. So that was the cover story. And so let me add this into it also. So I noticed before I was making the news that little white airplanes, little white Cessna airplanes, would hover right above that power plant. They'll give or take 2,000 to 3,000 feet up. You can see them, and they're circling. They're circling up there, right? And these lights, dude, these lights would just appear in the sky. And when that would happen, these airplanes would zoom in after these lights. And soon as these airplanes got within a mile radius of these lights would disappear. These airplanes would come in and they'd circle that area right over the power plant.
Did they shoot out and disappear, or just disappear right on spot without actually shooting out?
It would slowly disappear. Okay?
Wow.
And then the airplanes would come in and circle and then stay there for like 5-10 minutes. Airplanes would go back up in the sky and wait. Here comes the lights again, softly, slowly, silently coming in. Boom! Here they come.
Clearly they're intelligent and under control, because if they're knowing to come back and forth, that shows they're under intelligent control.
Right. Well, right. Well, okay. We'll get into that here in a minute. So they're coming in. They don't make any noise. They don't make any shadows. Okay. And this is the reason why you have to look for them. Even in the daytime, they cast no shadows, they make no noise, right? So the only way you're going to see them is if you're looking up. Okay, so once I started making the news in 2004, I noticed that these airplanes were now watching me. Okay, so every night, every evening before I went to the school, these airplanes would circle my apartment complex. Okay, and then they would watch us go all the way to the college, set up my tripod, set up the cameras. Sometimes those airplanes would come right there in front of me. We could see the pilot looking at us, Wow. So that was kind of crazy. So now, not only did the lights know that I was watching them, but now these people in the sky, whoever's watching these lights also, are now watching me. Okay? So in 2005, after it was a flare, I was like, dude, no way. Everything that I was researching upon, everything I was studying, everything I was reading, everything that made sense to me was mountains. Mountains was the source. Mountains was the source of where these things, gather at. So I'm like, dude, these things are by the South Mountain. Let's move to South Mountain and see what we can get. Okay, and also let's hike the mountain. Let's go out there and check it out. So that's what I did. Yeah. That's what I did in the beginning of 2005, in January of 2005. I moved to South Mountain on the east side. Now I'm about 1.5 miles away from South Mountain, and I was on the second floor of an apartment. And my kitchen window, I could perfectly see the mountain there. And so I'm like, cool, So I set up my tripod and everything, and set up my camera looking out that kitchen window. And I tell you what, man, I sat there for 3 years, and I saw some crazy things going on, man. Wow. It didn't take long, I saw this black dot, come out of the sky and just cruise across the mountain and kind of like disappear, And then I would go out there and try to figure out, because at the time, I'm still thinking, right? I'm still thinking spaceships, technologies, little green guys from Alpha Centauri, spaceships, technology, nuts and bolts,
Basic UFO kind of stuff.
Right, so that's what, because that's what everybody else is led to believe, right? So I'm going into this thinking it's a spaceship, right? Even the lights are a spaceship, right? There's got to be a guy in the spaceship, right? So that's what I'm thinking, okay? And, until I go out there, and I'm looking for a crop circle, I'm looking for any kind of evidence where a craft went down at, but what do I find? I find a boulder with spirals on it. Okay, and the same carvings of guys looking up what I just filmed coming out of the sky in that area. So as I'm doing all this, I remember that guy I saw on television, in 2004. So I called him up. I got a hold of him. And I'm like, dude, I didn't really tell him exactly who I was, what I was doing. I just told him that I'm making a documentary on the Petroglyphs. I said, I saw you on Channel 8. You're doing a tour on South Mountain. You're talking about the Petroglyphs. Can you go up there and teach me the glyphs? And he's like, yeah, sure. So we all meet up there on South Mountain. And I asked him, I'm like, can I videotape this? I'm kind of doing a video documentary here. He's like, sure, go ahead. So we spent about 3 hours up there on the mountain. And he's telling me some crazy stuff about these petroglyphs, right? Especially when it comes down to the spirals. Okay, now these spirals are doorways. All right, these spirals are like a type of vortex. I'm going to quote him as looking down into a tunnel, into a vortex. Okay, now these spirals, when they end down, okay, chances are it's going to end at a crack of the boulder. And if it ends at a crack, that is the emergence point to the underworld for the spirits. Okay, he not once did he ever say anything about crafts or spaceships, the little gray guys. No, he's talking about spirits, man. He's talking about spirits of the earth and sky, okay, that are coming and going from these doorways on the mountains around Phoenix, Arizona. All right, and so he's telling me that this when the spiral ends down, it's either that crack or the land right there where they're going into. When the spiral is going counterclockwise, it's a doorway out. And if the spiral ends up, then we're talking about Phoenix lights here. We're talking about how these lights just magically appear in the sky. Okay, there's a vortex in the sky. There's a doorway in the sky. They're just appearing in the sky because there's a doorway there. There's an energy doorway there.
So more or less, they're entities rather than spaceships and stuff like that.
You got it, brother. You got it. Yeah. So I'm learning all this stuff. You know, we're talking about giants. Okay, the giants was here in the Valley of the Sun. There's carvings of giants. I have discovered evidence of the giants on South Mountain. I've found structures. I've found tombs on the mountain where the giants have covered up these tombs with these huge, big, massive boulders to cover up the doors and things like that. So I'm finding Mayan petroglyphs out there, you know, and one of the stories that he was telling me as far as the giants were concerned, and I'm going to share it with you right now. He was telling me, he was like, you know, that mountain over there, and he points on the west side of the valley, and to us, we know it as the Superstition Mountains. Okay, now a lot of people...
I've heard people call them that before.
A lot of people consider this mountain, you know, of the Lost Dutchman's gold mine. You know, they're still looking for that gold mine out there, right? Well, that mountain is a lot more sacred, a lot more holier than just this German Dutchman out there with gold. Okay, and he was telling me this is a story on the Superstition Mountains on how it got formed. He says when the giants roamed the earth, they were bloodthirsty giants, and the flood was coming. And they knew that, you know, they needed to get on higher ground to get above the water. So the lead giant told his people to run up on this massive boulder. And as they did, he raised this boulder up, but the water kept coming. He raised this boulder up, but the water kept coming. He raised this boulder so high, by now it was the size of a mountain, but the water was still coming. And in his last bit of strength, he immortalized all his people because he didn't want them to drown. He immortalized his people in stone. He turned all his giants, all his people into stone. And when that happened, the water stopped. The water stopped, and then that was the end of the 40 days of the flood. And to this day, you can actually, now you can see to this day, you can see where the watermark has stopped on the Superstition Mountain. And when you look higher, you can still see today those giants that are turned to stone up there, still on the mountain, that are turned to stone. And the bottom of the mountain, you can see the lead giant. He's kind of praying. He's praying. All right, this is it's like a formation of a rock of a giant, and he's praying. Right. You know, so, you know, he's telling me all these crazy things. You know, like one of them, for instance, one is he's saying that when the Hohokams first arrived here. Now, Hohokam is a Pima name. They're the first Indians who arrived in the Valley of the Sun. Is a Pima name for the people who are gone, the people who are missing, the people who got taken away. Because we don't know what happened to these people. They reigned here in the Valley of the Sun for 1,000 years. And after that 1,000 years, they were just simply vanished, gone. Now the archaeologist wants us to say, well, they simply migrated somewhere else. And because it got too hot, they migrated somewhere else. Well, if that's the case, then where did they go? We cannot find any evidence on where they went. Even when me and you move, we take our belongings with us. But yet the Hohokam didn't. They left everything behind and simply vanished. Now this isn't the same. This is the same story that we find all over the world, where these tribes were reigned in their land for many, many years, and then all of a sudden disappeared.
You know, they disappeared off the face of the earth.
Yeah, that's right. And
I've seen a few stories of different tribes like that and stuff like that that have just vanished out of thin air.
And the Hohokam is one of them here in Phoenix, Arizona. And so he said when the holocaust first arrived here, now it wasn't a dried up desert back then. It was more of a tropical-like landscape, and you can see the evidence from the waterfalls on South Mountain, all the dried up waterfalls. You can see evidence that it wasn't all dried up when the holocaust 1,000 years ago were here. It was tropical. It was a nice environment. It wasn't dead.
It's hard to imagine Phoenix a tropical environment.
I know, right? Exactly. Yeah, and that's the way it was when the Indians first got here. And they said that they didn't know how to live here. So these things came up out of the sand world. They came down from the sky, and they taught these people how to live. Now, there's a lot of carvings up there where we see some interpretations. They call them the lizard people. Okay, the lizard people came up out of the sand world. They lost their tails to look like everyone else. They taught these people how to survive, how to live. In return, these people worship these things as gods because they were able to shape shift. They were able to change shape. They were changing colors. They were looking like men, like people, like snakes, like deers and animals and coyotes. They were just changing shape. They're shapeshifters, man. And they worship these things as gods. They didn't know any better. They thought these things were gods, And so they started to perform sacrifice to these gods. And I found many evidence of altars. I found many altars out there on South Mountain. And so some of these carvings with the lizard people, okay, so there's little dot in the middle. You see a dot, a circular belly. The circular belly, and then
I've actually seen the picture you're talking about with the petroglyph with that.
Right, and out comes forth this, arms and legs and a head. Okay, and I believe, because these things morph, they change shape. I've seen these things a number of times to understand this. I've seen them turn into a flying serpent. I have filmed Quetzalcoatl, the flying serpent, over South Mountain many times. Okay, so I understand what these glyphs are talking about. I understand what these petroglyphs are talking about. It's not talking about spaceships here. They're talking about living entities, living beings. All right, so when you see that dot, okay, I believe that's the Phoenix lights. That is the orange amber light, or the orb, or the white orb, or the black orb that we're seeing in the skies today around the world. We see these orbs in the sky. That's just the beginning. Yeah. That is just the beginning. Soon they were going to start to morph and start looking like people and snakes and animals and different stuff. They're changing shape, man. This is another type of animal. This is another race. Okay, this is another being. All right, this is not spaceships technology. This is not crafts here. Each light, you see 5 lights out there. You're looking at 5 living entities. Okay, and yes, they like to fly in formation sometimes. This is the reason why you see the triangle formations out there.
Oh, so do geese.
It's not an invisible spaceship out there. Each light is a living entity. Okay, they know who's watching, they know who's not watching. This is how they're able to get away with being on our skies with no one really, paying attention. But, in fact, there's more coming. More and more. Over the years, there has been a lot that has been coming here. And another secret, I'm probably going ahead of myself, but another secret is they're not from outer space, they're from inner space. Okay, these things have always been here. The Native Americans tell us that you go up on the mountains and talk to the spirits. I have done that many times. This is how I was able to bring them out. Some of those petroglyphs has the power to invoke the spirits. And on accident, the first time on an accident, that happened. I'm talking to a petroglyph, and 3 days later, the same area of this petroglyph, a flying serpent came out of that canyon. Okay, wow. So I'm watching all these things and I'm studying this, and Dave was telling me that's the entrance point, that crack. Until I witnessed it, right? I saw it. I videotaped it. This orb came out of the sky. It cruised across South Mountain, okay? And then it kind of went into a ghost. You can see through them, right? You can kind of see through them. They turn into a spirit form. And then when they get to that boulder, they absorb themselves into the rock. I have filmed this many, many, many times. I've seen this. Same way when they come out of the doorways, when they come out of the stone, out of the mountain. They're like spirits. You can see through them. And as they climb higher in the sky, then they become more solid. They start changing shape. All right, they start changing colors. All right, things like that. So in 2005, as soon as I matched like 3 sightings to the petroglyphs out there on South Mountain, and no one has ever done this before. I mean, in the history of the United States, because it's always been a theory. Oh, we think the Native Americans were carving UFOs on the mountains, but no one has actually proven it. Nobody actually sat out there and spent time and spent man hours out there climbing around on the rocks and investigating what was going out there. No one has ever been in the field to do this before. I was the first one to ever do this. I matched these petroglyphs that we're seeing in the sky. This is the reason why I call my research petroglyphs in the sky, is because that is what we're seeing in the sky. Okay, and nowhere. I've seen petroglyphs all over this valley. I've seen petroglyphs, all over other places. People send me photographs. Not once is it talking about a spaceship. Okay, when it comes to crafts and things like this, okay, I'm open to that. All right. So the scientists have found 7 Earth-like type planets on the outskirts of our solar system. And what's to say that there could be a race of beings on there who have the capabilities to create a spaceship and visit Earth? Sure, why not? Sure. I'm open to that. Why not?
That's the theory I've always kind of just gone with. But
sure.
I like what you're talking about, because it really makes sense when you think about a lot of the ancient alien theory and how they worship these gods, serpent gods, things like that, and it was all put in petroglyphs and stuff.
That ancient alien series, they're just talking about spaceships, technology, right?
Not the life form. That's really interesting.
I mean, they're nowhere even come close, and we'll talk about that here in a minute. Why they're not talking about that, But these are living entities, okay, and they've always been here, and this is their home too. All right. When we read some of the ancient scrolls, especially some of the Babylonian scrolls, we're talking about the Anunnaki, things like that. It says that some left, some stayed behind. It doesn't say spaceships, does it? No, not in this scroll. No. It does not say spaceships. All it says is some left, some stayed behind. It was man. It was ancient aliens and UFO conspirators that put spaceships in with that, but it doesn't make sense because that's not what they're talking about. All right, so they say that some stayed and some left behind. So I believe that the ones that stayed are the ones that we're seeing in the skies now. All right, so these orbs that we're seeing in the skies actually are changed shape. They morph into the likeness of man. So when I'm doing this, I'm taking this to the news. I've got 3 sightings that match the petroglyphs out there. No one has done this before. So when I took that to the news, boom, this was a whole new subject on the Phoenix Lights. It's been 10 years, since, the Phoenix Lights happened out. Now, someone has come down and proved that the petroglyphs are talking about UFOs in the sky. I actually found the petroglyph carving of the Phoenix Lights, 1997. It happened when the holocauns were here also. That same type of sighting took place 1,000 years ago because they recorded that on the rocks. Okay, they didn't have video cameras back then. They had stone boulders to record their sightings, and that's what these petroglyphs are. They're prehistoric photographs of what took place in that special area. So when you look at the petroglyphs, just don't look at the art. Include the whole landscape in with the art, because the artist is including the landscape in with what the petroglyphs are saying. For instance, if we see a snake and he's doing like a triangle formation there, okay? He's doing these 2 triangle hills, it looks like. You want to step back from that petroglyph and look at the background, because the background will show the 2 pyramids, all right, in the back of what this petroglyph snake is trying to tell you, all right? So that's one way of understanding the petroglyphs. Another way is you want to follow the way that the dogs are looking at. Oh no!
I'm still here. I'm still here. Sorry about that.
We're in La La Land. That's all good.
I was trying to take a drink.
So when the dogs and the deers are looking in a direction, you want to follow where their direction, because that will lead you to the next story. Okay, so I'm making the news in 2005 now, coming out with this incredible investigations with the petroglyphs, with the Phoenix Lights, connected to these petroglyphs carved on the mountains by the holocaust. And so that's when I ended up doing an article for UFO magazine. I went on to do the pilot for the UFO Hunter show and Ancient Aliens TV series. And,
I seen the picture with the guy from the UFO Hunter show, and I thought that was really, really cool, man.
Yeah, that's Pat Usker.
Yeah.
Yeah, I met him in 2005. It was his idea. It was his idea to get UFO hunters going. He was the one that got this all started. He knew Bill Burns and everything. He was kind of working for Bill Burns. But Pat Usker had this idea of someone going out there and videotaping all these people that are seeing UFOs and make a show out of it, And so when he was in Phoenix, he asked me if I wanted to be involved with him. He interviewed me. I took him up on South Mountain, and we talked about the Petroglyphs connection, and he interviewed a couple other people here in Phoenix, Arizona. And then it wasn't later until 2007 when the show finally aired on the History Channel. That's when the whole people came out and did the show. I did the show for the History Channel for the UFO Hunter show. And
wow.
And they were telling me, now, dude, you're filming some bizarre stuff. Okay? He's like, the people are not ready for this. He's like, if you're going to talk about these things, you have to say spaceships. You have to say crafts. You can't say fallen angels. You can't say angels. You can't say Nephilim. You can't say spirits. Flying.
They might go out and buy up all the toilet paper again.
Right, dude. He's like, the people aren't ready for this. Man, I was so far ahead of these other, so-called UFO researchers. That the public nobody was ready for these things yet. So that kind of upset me, and then by then I had found out more about the holocom, and things like that, and I really didn't like the idea on where some of these cable shows were going, because they were misleading the public here, and I had proof. I had solid proof that it's not spaceships that we're dealing with here, man. They're living entities. I was the first one in the United States to actually bring this to the UFO community. And when you're first at anything, you're gonna get ridiculed. You're gonna get people telling you that you're filming balloons and flares and that you're crazy and you're on drugs and all this other stuff. But I stuck with my guns, man, because I was there. Yeah. I did that. It's been 15 years later now. I'm still doing this, and I'm going to get to this in a minute. I found more evidence of what I'm doing out here, and I can to back me up, and it just so I really didn't like the way some of these cable shows were going, and so I kind of declined a lot of them, dude, because I wasn't going to be a part of disinformation. And,
you got to make sure it's the right story and the right truth and stuff, and not something fabricated.
Yeah. And it upset me a lot, but I stuck with my guns, and years later people are messaging me and because by then I'm on the internet by now. I've done the History Channel, I did True TV, I've doing radio shows and stuff like that, so my information is getting out there. People are contacting me, dude. I saw the exact flying serpent in Florida, or I saw these orbs in California. I'm seeing the exact same stuff that you're filming. So I knew I was right. I knew it was only a matter of time when people were actually going to catch up with me. So I knew I just, it was frustrating. It was very frustrating, when you have all
I can imagine.
Pushing against you, saying spaceships, crafts, little green guys, and I thought that too. Okay, so if this was the direction my studies and investigation was going to take me, then I would be saying that. But my investigations and what I verified and proved took me another way, man. Took me this way. Yeah. I was not prepared to go this way, but this is where the evidence was leading me to this way. And when I'm bringing this information to people, they're calling me crazy. They're saying balloons and flares, and they're just saying, dude, they're spaceships, they're little green man. And I'm like, dude, it's not, man. There's something different. You know, so I'm doing this for years. I'm out there on South Mountain. I'm hiking the mountain. I'm understanding the petroglyphs a lot more. I'm finding sacrificing altars. Okay, I'm finding tombs out there on South Mountain. Okay, I'm finding evidence that the Mayans were here on South Mountain from their carvings. Okay, from their art. All right, so and you know what? I actually did a news report. I'm probably the only one in the United States to do a news report with a city archaeologist to talk about UFOs and petroglyphs. You know, and I did. And that archaeologist, he oh my God, dude, we don't even want to go there. You know, he was path over here. You know, and totally not. You know, some say that they're UFO sightings and this. He's just totally blowing people's ass. You know, blowing people's ass, dude. I'm like, oh my God. So you're no good, dude. You know, but here's the evidence. If I can find this, why aren't you talking about it? Because I bought his books. I'm studying petroglyphs. Of course, I'm going to find out what the archaeologist is going to say. You know, but he's leaving out a lot of stuff. He's not talking about the altars. He's not talking about the sacrifice. And he's not talking about the Mayans. He's not talking about the tombs. He's not talking about giants. But they're carved out there. So what is the deal here? You know?
Yeah, he's just giving a basic throwaway answer instead of really looking into it.
This whole information on who the Holcomb were and what happened to them. You know, people are just, you know, blind and just believing it. Because he's an archaeologist, you know, we're just going to believe him. But no one's going out there. No one's going off the trails and looking at the evidence. And the evidence will suggest something totally different. All right, so I'm finding all this stuff, right? And that's when I was like, dude, I'm going to go to the library now. You know, it's been like a few years. I'm going to go to the library. Actually, I was there to investigate the CCC, the Civil Conservation Corps. Now, there were a group of young men, 200 young men back in the Depression in the 1930s under President Roosevelt's New Deal. Okay, so he hired all these people, all these kids to go up there and live on South Mountain, and they made trails, they made ramadas, they made picnic areas, they put swing sets up for the kids, they did mining, there's a lot of mines up there, they pulled about $60,000 with gold and precious metals and stuff like that. For like 2 years, they were up there doing this stuff, and they're blowing up petroglyphs. Okay, this is the reason why I wanted to know why the CCC was out there blowing up boulders with petroglyphs on them. Okay, so they're blowing up stories, right, dude? They're erasing stories of South Mountain. All right, they're blowing up the photographs. They're blowing up the petroglyphs. You know, so I want to find out why, dude? Why are you doing this? Why are you picking on that rock? You know, and you're not picking on that rock. Both rocks are the same minerals, but you blew up that one with petroglyphs on it. Why? You know, well, later on, I'm coming to find out that these, you know, when you understand the rock art, you know, it's telling you something different. It's telling you, you know, like demons and sacrificing and fallen angels and flying serpents and weird stories, dude. You know, and they don't want their kids. You know, they don't want kids going up there and then investigating and seeing this stuff. You know, because it's not a family park. You know, you can't have demons. You can't have creatures and flying serpents on a family park, you know, and spirals and doorways and flying diamonds and flying phoenix lights, you know, on these. So they blew it up, dude. And that pissed me off, right? So I'm up there.
That's a piece of that should have been protected or something.
Absolutely, they destroyed so much up there. You know, they destroyed where the public can reach. And of course, I go higher up on the mountains where, you know, there's more glyphs, more of the story that wasn't destroyed, you know, because they're trying to keep people on the trails. I don't go off the trails to find out the beaten path. Right? You know, so this is where the history is. You know, you just can't stay on the trails. That's misleading. You have to go off the trails and investigate for yourself to find the history. And so I'm in the library. And I go to the Arizona room on the 4th floor, and I ask the people, well, give me everything you have on South Mountain. So she comes out with this huge folder, and she plops it down on the desk, and I open it up, and lo and behold, what do I find? I find a pamphlet and a brochure and tons of work on the first park ranger in Phoenix, Arizona, named Charles Holbrook. He was the first ranger from the 1930s all the way up until the late 40s. And the Indians trusted Holberg. Holberg was a major dude back then. I mean, Holberg, he's in the major like government files and histories and stuff like that all over the west side of the United States. He was a major guy here, and his story. He wrote this whole story on what the petroglyphs meant, on who the holocausts were, and the Mayans, and the tombs, and the altars and things like that. You know, because the Indians told Charles, you know, about the holocausts, about how the Mayans were with the holocausts. Okay, and the Indians wanted him to protect these tombs full of gold, because they didn't want the gold people to go up there and start digging it up and getting rid of the gold, because the Mayans are coming back to claim this gold. Now, his story says, it's in the Phoenix Government Library. This has been covered up for the last 80 years. Okay, when he died, all this information was buried, tucked in a folder. I'm resurrecting this story. And this is the story on how it goes. When the holocausts first arrived here in the Valley of the Sun, these creatures came up out of the sand world. They came from down from the sky. They worshiped these things as gods. In return, you know, these beings taught these people how to survive. The Hopis tell us a story on how they learned how to weave their baskets by watching Spider Woman in the sky with her spider web, weaving in and out of the spider web. And this is how the Hopis were able to make their baskets from Spider Woman in the sky. This went on for 1,000 years. The Mayans were there. Okay, the giants were in this valley also, as we talked about. And there was sacrificing going on. This went on for 1,000 years. They were masters of canal systems. They were the best in the whole world at that time of making canals. And they were sacrificing. They were sacrificing children. They were sacrificing people that they kind of went to war with, their prisoners and things like that. And all the tribes from all around the nations gathered at this mountain. Back then, now named Mount Sepoa, Mountain of Mercy. This was a holy mountain. This was the mountain where they came to see their spirits, to see their gods, to see the Phoenix lights. Okay, all these Indians came here to witness this for worship and trade, and for food and gathering and things like that. It goes on to say it was a handful of corn for a handful of gold. All right, and they would take that gold and they would make gold idols. You know, just as we see in Mexico as the Mayans with the pyramids and the sacrificing that was going on, that religion was brought here in the Valley of the Sun also. And
so they were tributing to these entities in the sky for them to come over and kind of show them things and stuff like that.
Absolutely. There's petroglyphs out there where these creatures would come down and pick these people up and play with them in the sky. Sometimes they would take them away, never to return. Sometimes they would come back. Yeah, and so we're going to get into that here in a minute. There's evidence where all these Indians used to sit on these on these hills, like a type of amphitheater, and they would watch down below the Phoenix lights and the flying serpents and the orbs and the flying diamonds and all these crazy things, you know, going on right there in front of their eyes, you know. And so one day they decided to stop the sacrifice. They didn't want to sacrifice anymore. And when that happened, that's when the land started to become dry. The water started to stop flowing down the sides of the mountain. Everything was going dead. And everybody,
the tropical paradise.
And everybody was, starting to wonder, you know, they upset the gods. They upset the Phoenix lights. They upset, you know, Quetzalcoatl. Everybody, they're mad. We stopped sacrificing, you know, and look, this is our punishment. Look, everything is dying around us. It's becoming a desert now. And then all of a sudden, they said that some of the story says that the devil came from the east, came down and picked these people up, taking them off into the sky, never to return. And it actually says that, you know, it shows on these petroglyphs out there of these lights, these Phoenix lights, and these orbs, and sometimes these flying serpents, this rod would come down from the bottom and pick these people up. I've got photographs of these petroglyphs where they're picking people up by their head and taking them off into the sky. It was like a type of rapture, if you will. You know, when we read First Thessalonians, it says we will be caught up in the sky to be judged. Well, is that what happened to the Holocom here? I think so. They were caught up to be judged. Okay, but they were survivors of this Holocaust. They saw what was going on, and they were afraid, and they hid in caves. And when it was all over with, they knew that they had upset the gods. And the leaders back then knew that it was wrong to stop the sacrifice, so they went over to the altars and committed suicide because they knew that it was wrong. And so all these other people, they were afraid. They knew that if they were going to continue to live in this valley, then eventually they would have to go back to war with these spirits of the earth and sky. So they buried all their gold in these tombs, and they got the hell out of Dodge. And for 400 years, nobody lived in Phoenix, Arizona. Nobody lived in this Valley of the Sun because it was cursed. They cursed this land. Dead zone. They cursed this land. This is the reason why all the pots, everything was left behind in place, because some got taken away and some was afraid and took off. You know, and so all these other years, there were Indians on the tribes. There were tribes of Indians living on the outskirts of the valley, and they saw the Phoenix light. They saw the flying serpents. They saw these things in the sky, and they were afraid because they knew what had happened to their ancestors. You know, they knew that it was a cursed land, that these things were not here. These things were not here to help us, that things went wrong. You know, last time mankind dealt with these Phoenix lights and these things in the sky. So they all bailed, and they went back to their homeland, back to Mexico. Okay, all of this is what Charles Holbrook wrote, the first park ranger of South Mountain. You know, I even found a book that his son wrote after his death, when he was talking about how his dad was chasing off gold seekers, you know, getting away from the gold. Because I found the tombs out there. I found where these grave robbers were trying to dig up the tombs and things like that. You know, so yeah, you know, the tombs are out there, dude. And this is the reason why this is a big cover-up conspiracy. This is the reason why the archaeologist doesn't talk about this stuff, because they don't want people going back up there and digging up the tombs. But
everything up, trying to find
it. I say we dig up at least one tomb and see what's there. At least one tomb. All right.
For sure.
And I think if that ever happens, it's going to change history, dude. It's going to change the way we think of Phoenix, Arizona. You know,
you would look at it more like Egypt.
Yeah, I'm not saying anything that hasn't been said before. All of this has been said before over 80 years ago. I'm resurrecting this information. This was pulled.
Yeah, this is all new to me. I love it. I absolutely love it. I've never thought of UFOs in a sense of being an entity or a spirit. I've thought about it in a spiritual sense, but never fully put the connection there. But with the petroglyphs and things like that, and the way you're explaining it, it actually really makes a lot of good sense.
Yeah, excuse me. Yes. This is the direction that this is taking me. It's not taking me this direction with spaceships and look great guys running away. It's taking me in this direction. Okay, in this direction, the evidence is telling me this is the real history of Phoenix, Arizona. This is what happened to the Holocom. This is what happened to the giants that were here in the Valley of the Sun. This is why the tombs are still left there, because they know eventually supposedly the Mayans are supposed to come back and reclaim this gold, because it's supposed to start over again. Okay? Yeah. So the reason, you know, all the Native Americans, they will tell you that we're in the fourth world. We're about ready to enter the fifth. Okay, so every time the world changes, you know, these things are in the sky, and they actually either help or misguide man basically into their downfall, you know, because, you know, there's no food, there's no water, but yet the Phoenix lights, when this orb comes down, he morphs into a man, into a lizard man or something, right? And he teaches these people, you know, how to survive, how to live, you know? So right now, we see him in the sky. More is coming, because they know that the end is close. The end is near. All right, look at all these prophecies that's going on. Look at the plague that we're dealing with now. The four horsemen is clearly running wild on planet Earth today, and these things know. These entities know. All right, but I think there must be some kind of rule. They have to go by their rules also. This is the reason why they're not coming down, landing on the White House lawn, saying,
hey, hello,
we're here, worship us again. You know why?
Yeah.
Because we don't need them yet. That's the key. This is what, the government isn't going to tell you, is because what happened last time in their past, mankind needed these beings to survive. And it led to their downfall. They got taken away after 1,000 years of worshiping these phoenix lights, these beings in the sky. This is the reason why the government will never tell you what's going on here. If they came out and told you right now that these phoenix lights is the cause of the people of the holocaust being vanished and taken away, the flying serpents and the orbs, how many people do you think would stay in that valley? It would be mass chaos, dude. They would get the hell out of the
Oh yeah. It would be all bad, all over.
Right? So they're not going to tell people what these lights are. They're going to monitor them. They're going to watch them, and they are. There are black helicopters flying around that mountain. There are white airplanes, white Cessnas watching for these UFOs. Okay, they know what's going on. They know exactly what's here in this valley. They know
they're paying attention.
Soon as they see a deer starting being taken away or somebody being taken away, boom, that's it. They're going to go into hiding. They know that the rapture is coming, dude. They know it's going to go down, right? So this is the reason why, they're never going to tell you, all right? So right now they're just watchers. They're watching us in the sky. And they're watching, a lot of people, how come, why am I seeing this, and other people aren't? I don't know. I don't have the answers to that. There could be some kind of bloodline going on from biblical days. There could be I don't know what's going on. But clearly, this is my destiny. I'm supposed to bring this information to the public because this information is fact, it's true, and it's credible, and there's a lot of evidence here. And so I'm bringing this information to the public. Unfortunately, a lot of these people in the UFO field are just out for themselves, making money, trying to sell movie tickets and books, and talk about shit they have no idea what they're talking about. And with me, I have written a book on South Mountain. I don't collect any money from these books. I do tours on South Mountain. I don't collect any money from that.
Wow.
Donations are cool. That's fine. But basically, the money from my books go to the foster kids here in Phoenix, Arizona. It was never about making money. It was never about making money. It's bringing this information to the public. Okay,
bringing out the truth.
If you get to the mountain, then I bring the mountain to you through my videos, through my adventures, through my 20 years of research, through my book, and I have the documents. I proved all the documents. Now it's still in the file in Phoenix, Arizona, in the Phoenix Library. So it's all credible. It all makes sense.
Yeah.
This is what's really here. Right? I can back up everything that I say. A lot of these
you've got a lifetime worth of research.
A lot of these skywatchers can't, but I can back up everything. I've done my archaeology work. I've been up on the mountains. I tore up my knees walking on that mountain. I've been up there, dude. From one point to the next point, dude. I've seen it. I understand it. I've seen these spirits of the earth in the sky. They come up right up next to me now. They know I'm here. They know I'm watching them.
Yeah.
And so
you're a normal now.
Yeah, this is the reason why I did this, dude, because I wanted to find out what was going on. And they were watching me a lot way before I was getting into this, and somebody knew I was coming, and it all has to do with this. And so another secret I'm gonna teach you, I'm gonna explain to you. Is okay. So why mountains, right? Why do these things like mountains? And earlier we talked about the fault lines and the energy. All right. Mm-hmm. So yes, this is the main source. These things are attracted to natural energy sources around the earth, such as fault lines, volcanoes, and also man-made energy such as nuclear facilities. I have seen videos, I've seen photographs of lights over nuclear power plants before. Not CGI stuff, but real stuff over these power plants. Right, so it's energy, man, it's energy. I discovered this in 2005. All right, so the way the Holocoms did it, the Holocoms were sky watchers also, all right? And they did these equinox and solstice light and shadow markers throughout the whole mountain. They arranged these boulders in such a way to align with the equinox and the summer solstice morning sunrise, and also
almost like a sundial of sorts.
Excuse me?
I said almost like a sundial of sorts.
Well, they're following the sun. They're tracking the sun. You know, like Stonehenge, you know, like how the sun goes up on the equinox and the solstice between these stones. You know, the archaeologist wants us to believe, you know, well, it's time for them to plant corn. Bullshit. That has nothing to do with planting corn, man. It's about changing up the seasons. It's about when to see these spirits of the earth and sky on their return, when they will be coming back. Okay, because the first year I saw them like January, February, March, April, May, June, July. You know, as soon as we started getting closer to the equinox and the solstice, they were gone. Okay, and then after the equinox and the solstice, during some of these other months, they started to come back. So, and then the next year it repeated itself. This is a pattern here. They're following the sun. They're following the Earth's energy. When the sun gets aligned with these fault lines around the earth, when they get aligned in position, it opens up these doorways. It creates a fusion effect. Okay, so the Native Americans say that they're going down into the underworld. Okay, on a scientific basics, on a scientific level, to look at it a scientific way, they're going down into these fault lines. Okay, they're going down to absorb this energy. This is the reason why in 2004, I'm videotaping these lights right over a power plant that's bored down into the fault line of South Mountain. Okay, and I found in the public library an old map where it documented, the Pilgrims documented where all the canals were, and where all the cities were that the Holocom built, all the hologons and structures and things. And right here where that power plant sits today was the source of the Holocom. That was a major city. Okay, so these lights, that's telling me that these lights have always been attracted to that area on the east side. Okay, because the Indians wanted to get as close as they could to these gods. This is why we see these cliffs that are way up there. You know, these Montezuma's castle and things are way up there on the side of the mountain. Okay, Sure, it's a good observation point. Sure, it's good for strategic and battle, but also it's close to where their gods are coming and going from. Because right on the east side, right on the next to that cliff dwelling, there's a big crack with a big spiral right there, man. So their gods are coming and going from that area. They want to get as close as they could to that mountain. So they build their cities, they build their towers on the sides of the cliffs up there, not only for strategic ability, you know, for war and things like that, but also to get to their gods, to be next to their Phoenix lights, to be next to their entities, you know?
As close as they can get.
Right, absolutely. So it has everything to do with the sun. So when the sun aligns with these spot lines, it creates an energy, it attracts these beings, okay? And then after the equinox or after the solstice, when the sun moves position of the earth, so do these beings. This is the reason why, like, we'll see them in California and Arizona and, you know, over there in your neck of the woods, you know, for many, many months. And then after the equinox or the solstice, they're gone, right? Where are they? They're over there in Florida. They're over there in Florida. They're over there in Iraq, right? They're following the sun. The sun has moved positions and it's drawn energy over there. So after the equinox, after the changing of the seasons, the sun comes back. Here comes these entities.
They come back.
The energy. Right.
It's interesting you say that, because I actually kind of picked up on something like that this past summer when I was doing a lot of sky watching. I did notice white orbs going across the sky and disappearing. Not too many in formations or really multiple at a time, but just certain orbs that they would disappear. And it was very strange to me. But when the winter came around, I saw almost nothing. I might have seen one every couple of weeks, but during the summertime, I could almost spot 10 of them in a single night if I stayed out for a few hours. But when winter came around, I seen absolutely nothing.
Right. That's the pattern. That is the pattern. There's different patterns on different portions of the land. You know, so in your land, you know, that's the pattern. You have to, once you figure out their pattern, then you'll be able to predict where to see them again. And then when you look at the petroglyphs, man, it's photographs. It's telling us what to look for. And the petroglyphs,
literally a map.
Not spaceships, but orbs and diamonds and serpents and weird things in the sky, squiggly lines. You know, you see these squiggly lines on the rocks. It's not just some graffiti, man. It's what was seen in the sky from the
it had to have been important enough for him to carve it in and stuff like that.
Absolutely. So some mountains are sacred. Some mountains are holy. The ones that are holy, you can verify with the spirals on it. And the archaeologist calls these other petroglyphs anthropomorphs. Okay, so we're seeing lizards changing into men. We're seeing men changing into snakes. We're seeing off-the-wall creatures. Okay, that is the spirits. That's the UFOs to us. That is what these things are talking about, all right? And then there's other mountains out there where it just talks about ceremonies. And so we're looking at kachinas and things like that. So if there's no spirals on that mountain over there, then that's not a source. That's not an energy source. That's just a place together, you know, to perform, you know, their dances and their things over there, you know. But the mountain
spiral really shows where the energy
spirals, right? The spirals is the source, is the energy spots, is the intergalactic gas station for these beings. That's it, brother.
That's awesome, man. I love it. You've really opened my eyes to a lot of different things to think about now with the UFOs and the subject of where they're coming from and what they are, because I've never thought of it like that. I've never thought of it in a sense where they could be entities that were already here and already living. I've always used the basic, they're spaceships from another planet coming down here to check us out for whatever reason. I don't know, but they're coming down to check us out. So I really appreciate everything you just told me, because it really opens up my mind to what some of this stuff might actually be.
Yeah, and you know, it's just because, you know, for so long, you know, people are just, you know, they understand technology. Okay, they understand, you know, like other beings and spaceships and things like that, because, you know, they haven't really looked into what's really out there and available to us, as far as like these ancient scrolls and things like that. They tell us what these things are, you know.
They've been here forever.
Yeah, and a lot of it, you know, has to do with like these biblical scrolls. All right, so I'm not talking about religion. All right, when you start talking about the Bible and stuff like that, you go, oh, don't throw the Bible at me. That's the reason why you don't know about UFOs, because you're turning stuff into a religion. You're making it a man-made religion. Bullcrap. No. Let's get religion out of these biblical scrolls and let's look at it. Let's read it as a type of history book of the world. And when you do it that way, when you have an open mind and you do it that way, it tells us, man, it tells you what these things are. It tells you that these things have always been here. Hell, look at Moses. Okay, he followed a pillar of cloud by day and a pillar of fire by night. All right, this is what led the Israelites out of Egypt. Okay, so, and when you read the book of Numbers and the book of Exodus, basically they're following a UFO for 40 years and 40 nights, man. In the desert. You know, and when it clearly says when this thing stopped in the sky, they pitched their tent. They lived there for a year. They lived there for a year, man. And when that thing started moving, that's when it was time to leave. Or that's when it was time to go. And what happened to Moses? He wasn't the one that brought the people into the promised land. Moses got taken away by a phoenix light on a mountain. Okay?
Wow.
It's that thing in the sky that brought those people into the promised land. It's all written down, man. It's all
That's definitely an interesting way to look at it.
Yeah, it's all clearly written down. It even tells you, dude, that Moses went into a tent and this creature, this UFO to us, this pillar of cloud, came down and met Moses on the ground and was talking with them. All right, so these things that we see in the sky were interacting with mankind at that time also. So the Great Spirit, God, if you will, uses some of these things to help mankind out. So we have to determine, you know, which ones are the bad ones and which ones are the good ones. You know, and unfortunately, I think the majority of what we're seeing are the bad ones. But I do think there are good ones flying around here. You know, so how are we going to determine the two? That's a whole different subject. But I think we're dealing with two different types of species here. One good and one not so good.
Okay. And that's perfect. That perfectly makes sense. Most of the time, there's always a good and a. If there's a good, there's going to be a bad.
Yeah, so, right. And they're waiting. They're waiting for man to need them once again. So let's say that we have this big war, right? There's no food, there's no water, all right? But yet the Phoenix light is going to come down. He's going to morph. He's going to change himself into a likeness of man, just like what these petroglyphs are carved out here. He's going to turn into man. He's going to say, "Look what I can do. I can give you food. I can give you water. In return, worship me. I am your God. I am the one that was told to you, that was prophesied, and I am the one. I am the Christ." But
for sure.
He is actually the Antichrist.
Yeah. So I have a question. Something that kind of popped in my head while you were talking about the petroglyphs and things like that, and how the entities were communicating with the natives and things like that. What's your take on crop circles? Do you think that's the same kind of deal? It's the entities coming down to draw something out, to kind of show somebody a message or something like that?
We really don't have any evidence on what is really making these crop circles. There's a lot of CGI videos out there on the internet.
There's definitely lots of
these orbs, making these crop circles, but we just don't really have any proof on what these things are. We don't know if they're man-made. We don't know if they're aliens. I mean, that's just a subject that we can't prove yet. We have no evidence. They're there. They're neat. I don't know what they are. I'm not going to call them alien-related because we have seen on how man has been created these things for ages, for years. Man has been.
I can respect that. For sure.
I really don't know. So I go with what I can verify. And what we can verify, it's neat, dude, because we can go out there and we can read the stuff, especially like in Genesis 6, when it tells us that these things came down out of the heavens, right? And the people living there worship these things as gods, okay? In return, they taught these people how to survive. That's the exact same story, okay? So we look at the petroglyphs, all right? Then we read the scrolls, right? So we read the scrolls, and then we can go to the petroglyphs, and they're photographs. They're prehistoric photographs of what has been written anywhere from 3,000 to 7,000 years ago.
Kind of completely verifies all of it.
That verifies it, right? Okay, that is the direction everything took me. I went down this road, it didn't fit. I went down this road, it fits, and now I first going into this, I'm like, dude, this is cool. These are aliens, man. This is awesome. But now I did a 180, dude. I did a 180. I'm like, wait a minute. Hold the phone here. I'm going down a different path here. The evidence is taking me down a different road. And I'm seeing something not cool. I'm seeing something that's scary as shit. This is the reason why the government will never come out and tell us what is actually going on, man. Because of the history. Because of the history.
For sure. Yeah, I've never understood the people that say, I can't wait to get abducted or find out the truth, or that is not where I want to be. I'd like to hear someone else's account of it or witness something, but I definitely don't want to be right directly in the mix with, possibly being taken away and stuff like that. So it's definitely scary. It's not a super easy to break down kind of scenario. And if you bring it out to the entire public, from what they've been told for centuries, years, however long, and you tell them something completely different, it's going to cause complete chaos, just like you said.
And when you bring this out, when you bring this to these other skywatchers, they don't agree with you, and then they start going against you. So
I have an open mind because I don't know for sure myself, so I have an open mind to different theories and stuff like that. And I definitely like your theory, man. It's got a lot of stuff backing it up.
And it's unfortunate that most of these researchers, so-called researchers, they're only in it for the fame. They're only in it for the money. So when you bring this new topic and you actually can prove what you're saying, they're going to dismiss you altogether. They're going to tell you, look, dude, you're wrong. Okay, this is what's really going on. Right? But they don't have any evidence. They don't have nothing to back them up. It's all hearsay.
Going with the popular vote.
I'm going with what history says. go with what I can prove. And we said that at the beginning of the show. I go with what we can prove, what is credible. Hearsay to me is not credible. What we can verify, what is proven, what we can actually verify, that is credible. So, and that's taking me down a road saying, that over there is just a little bit misleading. And it hurt me. It hurt me in these cable shows, because these cable shows, after I'm coming out and saying all this stuff, and they want to take the public down this road, and I'm like, I don't know if they just didn't want to give me credit for being the first one, to discover these beings here, or I don't know what their deal was, but they just stopped talking to me altogether once I, brought this evidence to them, So now we're using, like Giorgio and all these other people out there, who are talking about these things, who've probably never even seen a UFO in their life, but they're out there trying to act like they are and trying to act like they know what they're talking about, but it's all hearsay. You can't verify these crafts. You can't verify this stuff.
Proof is everything. Proof is everything.
And the thing, and what was really neat, I do my own show here on Facebook and on YouTube. Petroglyphs in the Sky, Jeff Woolwine. You can see me every Saturday night. And my YouTube channel is the Phoenix Lights Petroglyphs in the Sky. And what really, for years, dude, I'm talking about this, but finally, this episode of Skinwalker Ranch. Now, I don't watch a lot of these shows because I know how the producers want things to go, because I was involved with some of these shows, and this is the reason why I didn't want to be a part of these shows anymore, is because they were misleading the public. And plus, a lot of these shows are staged. They're staged.
For sure.
For sure. Look at that money pit that's going on this episode. Oh my God, dude! They're spending millions and millions of dollars, and all they're digging up is nuts and bolts. And then they go and they talk about it. Oh, I found a rock. Let's go talk about it, dude. What is the problem?
Yeah.
When are you going to get to the treasure here? What is going on with you guys?
Skinwalker Ranch, though, man, I actually really enjoy that show, and they're showing a lot of stuff that kind of like what you were talking about with the energy coming out of the mountain. The different crafts coming to observe them. Just last week, they had a little Cessna plane coming across with a camera on it. So it's really wild, because the whole time you were talking about South Mountain, in my head, I'm picturing Skinwalker Ranch Mountain.
They proved season 1, episode 4. All right, they proved what I have been saying since 2005. Now, what they were doing out there, they had put little sensors in these rockets, and they were launching these rockets up into the sky. And these sensors was collecting energy. And when this was going on, a light appeared in the sky, and it was one of those UFO lights.
Yeah.
And what it was doing was absorbing the energy. So obviously, Skinwalker Ranch, if there's a lot of real, legit light sightings there, orb sightings there, there's a fault line there. There's an energy line there. All right? So they haven't really figured this out yet, I guess. I don't know. But they're trying to say they were like at awe, because the rocket went up. They proved that there's energy right there. They proved that there's a light in the same exact spot, right? I've been saying this for years. I was the first one to bring this out to the public in 2005. Yet these people actually kind of proved it, and they were but they're still saying, "Oh, I'm wondering. I bet you that UFO caused this energy, this craft." Okay, so they're not really up in itself. They're not up to this. They're not up. They don't get it yet. They still think crafts. They still think this craft produced this energy. No, that entity, that being was there because of the energy. The energy has already been there. The sun is in the right position of these fault lines. It's opening up this fusion effect. It's opening up these doorways. It's attracting that light, man. It's going after that energy. All right. So a lot of people are saying, why do these spaceships have these lights on them? Do they need headlights so they can see through space? No, that has nothing to do with it. These things light up. Much like, let's look at the firefly. Let's look at the lightning bug. Okay, they naturally light up. Well, that's what these beings are doing. They emerge light, especially when they're absorbing energy. right? When they're absorbing that energy, man, they're gonna glow, dude. They're gonna glow white, man. They're gonna glow, glycerin sunlight, man, like coals, dude, like orange amber lights, dude.
It's energy. Energy produces light.
That's it, man. That light is the energy, man. There's no spaceship in. There's no little guy, man. That is a being, that is an intelligent being. Right? You see 5 lights out there. You're seeing 5 living entities. Just as the oceanographers are finding new species of life below the ocean, this is a new species of life above the ocean that the scientists and a lot of people in this field fail to recognize. They would rather say to the public, these are crafts from outer space and not entities from inner space.
Yeah, I guess it makes it seem a little easier to give the spacecraft answer rather than something that was already here, because you would really have to break that down and show. But the way, I love the way you made the connection to Skinwalker Ranch and South Mountain, because they really do have that same kind of activity and stuff like that, and are notorious for that kind of activity. So it really kind of really credits your theory even more, that it's taking place in other mountain ranges and other areas and stuff like that, and it's the same kind of activity. So to me, that really gives your theory a lot of credit.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely. That's it. So the more these investigators go on investigating, the more they're going to find out that Jeff Woolwine has been right all these years.
Yeah.
I mean,
I'd love to see it.
Yeah, they're proven what I've been talking about all these years. So that's just one incident. So, and it's cool. It's just sad that some of these cable shows, they know who I am. Everybody knows who I am. Coast to Coast AM. I mean, the History Channel. Matter of fact, I just did there's a new show coming out on the Travel Channel. They're using some of my UFO videos. So start looking for this.
Paranormal Caught on Camera by chance?
I'm not sure. They told me the name. I forgot the name. But they said that the name could change because of this pandemic. A lot of crazy things are going on. But I gave them permission to use my stuff. I told them about the Petroglyphs. They're going to bring it up to the producers. They're talking about a series. So this is, awesome. This is way in advance in the future. But for now, this new Travel Channel UFO show, look for my UFO sightings there. You're going to see it.
Yeah, definitely.
All these people, they know who I am. They know I can back up what I say. But I'm back to, 2007 when I'm doing the history show, and they're telling me, dude, the public isn't ready for it.
Yeah. Censorship.
Actually get to this. I'm so far ahead, of these, these researchers, and it's just upsetting. It's just really upsetting because you have all this proof. You can verify it.
Yeah.
You've
got a lot of stuff to back that up.
Yeah,
a lot more than what most people, stuff that I've seen, different kind of clips and stuff. You really don't get a backstory on it. You get a UFO clip of some lights, somebody saying, I think it's aliens, and that's the end of it. You've got a lifetime worth of research backing everything up that you're saying. And that's what I find most amazing, and it all fits in together really well.
I have history backing me up. I have the Petroglyphs backing me up. I have the first park ranger of South Mountain backing me up. I have these entities in the skies backing me up. All right? What more else do these people want?
That's it.
I mean,
that's everything.
It's all on the mountains. The tombs, the altars, the petroglyphs, the carvings. Then there's information in the library. And then there's the Phoenix Lights, and then these things that we see in the skies. It all adds up. It's incredible, man.
It's awesome. I love it, man. Well, I'm gonna love sharing this with everybody else. Before we end this, is there you want to give your channels a shout out? Any of your Facebook pages, if you just want to let people know exactly where to find you at and where to find your content at. I'll also drop the links in the descriptions of the videos to your channels and stuff like that. But if you want to give yourself a little outro, we'll go ahead and finish it up.
Thank you. So, you can find me all over the internet. My name is Jeff Woolwine. Petroglyphs in the sky. It's all one word. From there, from the internet, you can search all my history on what I've been saying for all these years. You can find me mostly on my Facebook page, Petroglyphs in the Sky. There I do a live showing every Saturday night. I try to get one out every Saturday night. And we talk about the petroglyphs, we talk about UFO sightings. If you guys have any petroglyphs or UFO sightings you want me to take a look at, please, message me on Facebook. If I like them, I'll air them on my show and we'll talk about it. And, you can find me on YouTube, the Phoenix Lights, Petroglyphs in the Sky. My website is petroglyphsinthesky.net. From there, you can see some of my sightings, some of the petroglyphs, some of the news reports, some of the backstory. You can find out who Charles Holbrook, the first park ranger, is. I have his documents up on my website. And talk about the Phoenix Lights, to talk about the spirits of the earth and sky, to talk about the Mayans and the tombs and all the crazy stuff that I have photographed and verified up on the mountain. From there, you can find my first book, The Phoenix Lights, Petroglyphs in the Sky, True Stories, Myths, Legends, and UFOs over Phoenix. And that is a story that takes the reader in a magical journey to understand the petroglyphs, to understand the history. This is all backed up. There's lots of color photographs of the petroglyphs there. It shows the altars. It shows some UFO sightings in there, and it's this magical story type story that brings a lot of true information that is all backed up. So that there you can pick up my book from there. You can find it on Barnes & Noble and eBay. And like I said before, I'm not collecting any money from this. The money I told the publishers to give to the foster kids. So I'm not making any money. So yeah, I really appreciate, you guys interviewing me, and you guys are awesome.
For sure, man. I appreciate you coming on the show. Everybody definitely go check him out everywhere. He's got some amazing videos and pictures. I'm going to try to post some in the video afterwards, so you might get to check some of them out. But yeah, go check them out. That's our show, guys. Have a good night.
Thank you.
All right. Hey.